And there I was the girl from Suits.
This one's wife. When Harry wakes up, it will hit him hard. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The narcissist has many victims. The vast majority of those victims are susceptible as a consequence of their addiction to the narcissist and their own emotional thinking, which causes them to fail to see what they're dealing with. Sometimes they will see some red flags but won't act on them. A lot of the time, they don't even see the red flags. Even where people try to explain to them what they're dealing with, they are unlikely to accept it, such as the height of their emotional thinking. It fogs their mind, causes them to find answers in the wrong place, causes them to believe certain things which aren't accurate. Some people never get beyond their emotional thinking and remain trapped decade after decade. Others, as a consequence of my work and the application of a no-contact regime, work hard to reduce their emotional thinking, and in so doing, they start to gain clarity. Things start to make sense. Answers finally appear to those questions that have been whirling around and round in their minds. As their emotional thinking becomes lower, the longer that they maintain that total no-contact regime, the fog of confusion starts to dissipate and more becomes clear. And it is then that the victim often finds themselves hard hit by the totality of what has happened to them. That even though the relationship with the relevant narcissist ended some time ago, be it romantic, familial, social, work, there's particularly, of course, the romantic relationships where people are hardest hit, it isn't until some time afterwards that the full weight of what happened to that individual lands. It's likely that they're no longer being physically or mentally abused by the narcissist. Indeed, the narcissist may well be long gone. It is just the after effects of the narcissist that have to be dealt with. And for those of you who are listening who have been involved with narcissists, know that there are two battles. There's the battle externally of keeping the narcissist away from you, and then the internal battle of keeping yourself away from the narcissist, away from the memories, away from the thoughts, away from talking about the narcissist, away from watching what the narcissist is doing, even though the narcissist is not actively interested in you any longer. And invariably, it's that second battle which is far harder. Eventually, there are those, through the application of my work and their own solid endeavours, get to that point of much reduced emotional thinking. It's at that juncture that they have woken up. The scales have fallen from their eyes, and they suddenly realise, oh my goodness, what have I done? It's not so much a case of what has happened to me, though that's part of the process, but it's the realisation that certain behaviours and decisions had been made by that victim whilst, in effect, they were enthralled to the narcissist, which has resulted in so many problems. Harry, when he eventually wakes up, and it will at some point, it'll be post-disengagement when she's got rid of him, and then where no contact has been enforced on him rather than by him, and that eventually, after some time, and probably with some help as well, as the fog of his emotional thinking clears, he will, of course, be hard hit by the realization that it was just an illusion. He'll be hard hit by the fact that he wasted this particular period of his time with a woman that didn't love him, who was only there to leech from him, a parasite that had attached to him, to draw out of him his fuel, to gobble up his character traits and residual benefits that only ever used him. He'll be devastated by the return to vulnerability when he believed that this was a person who said that she would save him from his vulnerability, that would make everything all right. He will struggle to understand how he got caught out. He'll be annoyed with himself for being fooled. He'll be angry. He'll resent her. But then there are other aspects where he will be hugely hard hit. Not so much in relation to the wasted time and how he feels, although that is very much a part of it. But as he starts to then realise that his slavish adherence to the doctrines that have been espoused by the spider, his wife, have caused so much damage to his standing with other people. For instance, he will rue the loss of his relationship with the British public. At the moment, he doesn't give a fig about it, because he believes that many of the Brits are haters, racists that don't like his wife, and therefore he's not interested in whether they like him or not. But when that cloud, that fog dissipates, he will then realise they once loved me. I was a playboy prince. They placed trust in me, and I betrayed that trust. And now they regard me as a traitor. Now they dislike me. They see me as a spoiled brat, an idiot who had his head turned by some spicy poontang, who rejected his country. The realisation of the loss of his relationship and standing with the British public will come back to haunt him. Furthermore, he may well end up ruining the way that he's treated Thomas Markle, his father-in-law, whom he has never met. Again, on the basis of swallowing, undoubtedly, the lies that have been issued by his wife, who will have smeared her father to Harry, concocting a range of unpleasant comments, possibly alleging abuse by her father towards her, causing Harry in his defensive mode to stand up for his wife, believing that it is appropriate for Thomas Markle to be cut out of her life and thus his. By extension, he will suddenly realise that his ostracisation as a consequence of the demands of his wife, of his siblings-in-law, Samantha and Thomas, two relationships whereby he misjudged them. But it goes further than that. He will come to recognise the damage that has been done to his relationship with his father, and also in respect of what he said about his stepmother. Whilst he may not care as much for Camilla as he does his father, the fact that he's upset his father with the remarks that he made about his stepmother, in Spare, for example, is something that he will feel guilty about when he wakes up. It is the case that many victims of narcissists swallow hook, line and sinker the propaganda that is put out by the narcissist, often siding with the narcissist and falling out with their family and friends and losing those relationships, only for when the relationship with the narcissist ends and they wake up from their emotional thinking, they realise, shit, I fell out with my mother over this man. What have I done? She was right. I was wrong. Harry's fallen out with his brother, who he had a solid relationship with his sister-in-law, who he had a crush on. He's had nothing to do with them for a number of years. There are other relatives in the royal family, Anne, Edward, and others besides, where the relationships have either become strained or non-existent. Family members with whom he got along with perfectly well, and they've all been sacrificed because he fell under the spell of a narcissist and listened to what she had to say. Now, there will be some who'll say, well, he's a grown man, he had choices, and that is true. But often those are the responses of those who've not been involved with narcissists. And those of you who have been a victim of a narcissist will say, it's like you become someone else. You take leave of your senses. You believe so much of what the narcissist tells you. You want them to be happy because they make you happy. And when they start to show some form of discontent, you want to remove that. And invariably, that means making sacrifices, both in terms of yourself, for instance, not doing the things that you once did, and also sacrificing relationships with other people in order to keep the narcissist on side. And at the time, trapped by the manipulations and ensconced within the fog of emotional thinking, the decisions seem absolutely the right one to make. Those of you who have not been involved with narcissists will probably find all of this rather remarkable and possibly difficult to comprehend. Surely someone isn't so stupid as to fall for all of this. It's nothing to do with stupidity and everything to do with susceptibility to being essentially charmed, to being brought under the spell of the narcissist, so that the individual, the victim, becomes like somebody else. The various people that I have spoken to, for instance, about family members that they've seen who are currently under the spell of a narcissist and they're wanting my help to resolve the situation, talk about them becoming somebody else. He's no longer the son that I knew. She's not the sister that I grew up with. The effect of the narcissist changes the victim so that they enter that folie à deux, that they become that awful shared fantasy. But ultimately it will end. And with Harry, that is where it will go. And eventually, although it may be many years in the future, he will wake up and he'll realise that he lost the trust and admiration of the British public. He'll realise that he didn't treat his father-in-law appropriately. He will see the damage that he caused to his relationship with his father, the heartache that was generated by not allowing his family to have involvement with his own children. He will see the damage caused to his relationship with William and Catherine, the other relatives. But with all of those things, there is the potential, no matter how slim, for reconciliation. That there is the possibility to rebuild the relationship even slightly, because those people remain. And they may look at things differently once he's away from his handler. But he will also come to realise when he wakes up that he damaged his relationship with his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, and grandfather, Prince Philip, and that he made their last months unpleasant, miserable and hellish as a consequence of his petulant behaviour driven by the needs of his handler wife. That when they should have been enjoying their dotage, he caused consternation and concern. That when they were unwell and dealing with painful illnesses and dying, he continued to be a thorn in their side with his errant behaviours. And because he is, despite what some people might think, capable of guilt and remorse, he will eventually, in years to come, realise what he has done by being led by the nose, or by little Harry, with regard to this one's wife. And with regard to his grandmother and his grandfather, he cannot undo any of that behaviour, because, as we know, they're both dead. And he will have to live with the knowledge that his behaviour resulted in unpleasantness for both of them, which he cannot undo. And the full horror of that recognition will come to visit him once he finally wakes up from what he's currently involved in, and it will hit him hard. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.